just make a few comments. And by way of observation, to say that this signature project about health and wellness is taking place against a global health pandemic. It is significant because every day we are being reminded as a country, but most importantly, being reminded as citizens of the global community that this is a challenging period in all of history, and that we are faced with one of the most significant crises, pandemics ever witnessed in the last 100+ years. And yet, in the face of it, we have to find the way to move forward carefully, thoughtfully, being resilient, being innovative in the context of a pandemic that has reordered the world and has changed the stability of the world order. Here in St. Kitts and Nevis, faced with this background, the unity government is reaffirming its commitment to health care as part of the delivery of the stronger and safer future which we promise to every citizen and resident in St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to remind us that these are serious times. COVID-19 started essentially as a health pandemic, a health crisis, which over time morphed into an economic crisis of a magnitude never before witnessed in modern history. When the economists examined the impact of the pandemic, the Spanish flu way back then, when they look at the impact of the financial crisis, 2008 to 2011 thereabout, when they look at the Great Recession, they are unable to find a parallel in terms of economic consequences that have been so deep and so severe. In the face of all that, we have come to say that health matters, and that the government is committed to do all in its power to preserve the public health system in St. Kitts and Nevis. While we are doing that, and today's groundbreaking ceremony, in which we have committed millions of dollars to the health infrastructure and through that the delivery of health services, speak as a strong testimony to the government's commitment. And we ask ourselves, what is the message for us? And the message for each and every one of us is that it is not over until it is really over. And I want just to serve a reminder that COVID-19 is still with us. And the tendency to take the gains that we have made so far, that has put us number one in the management of COVID-19, if we are not careful, we could have a spike in the cases again. So even as we carefully open up, I want to make a special appeal to every citizen and every resident not to become complacent. Still wear your mask. Still practice the hand hygiene. Still continue to pay attention beyond hand hygiene to the overall hygiene, your body, your family dwelling, your workplaces. And to the extent possible, it is still advisable to avoid too much or too many large crowds. Critically important. At this particular moment in time, we speak and we say, well, we're COVID-free. Everything is relative. So long as St. Martin has it, it is here. So long as Antigua has it, it is here. So long as Aruba and the ABCs have it, anywhere it is in the world represents a danger to all of us. Because we have come to learn, no island, no country is free of it and will be free of it until every island and every country is indeed free of it. Important, because it only takes one passenger, one visitor, one returning national, returning from anywhere, to bring it back to our lived reality and experience. In the context of an obvious success, which we must not take for granted, I want to ask for a special round of applause for all our healthcare workers and to encourage them to continue to do good. At this particular moment in time, globally, 28.9 million cases of confirmed COVID-19 represent the tally. 28.9 million people have been infected by it. And COVID-19 ultimately leaves in its wake deaths. For the world so far, 801 persons have died. Nearly 1 million persons. It could have been me. It could have been you. We give God thanks for his mercies and compassion to us as a people. And we are reminded that had it not been for his grace, Pastor Isaiah, help me with a good word. Had it not been for his grace, the Lord on our side, I think we have it now. Tell me, where would the count be in St. Kitts and Nevis? At this moment, no active case, is that so, CMO? At this case, not a single death. And we are grateful for that. And we want to keep it that way. So sometimes when you hear people making their noise about wanting to have a big party, about they have to make their daily bread, that you open up the place, you understand that it is not an informed response, and it is not a response that calibrates well with the situation surrounding the COVID-19 and its danger. So each of us has a brother, a sister, a neighbor to help educate, because unless they are free of it, we will never be free of it. So each one has to protect the other. It is good that the message can be shared in the church, in the schools, everywhere, in our workplaces, because it has to be, and all of society approach, everyone understanding and acting well in accordance with that understanding. So again, I want to appeal to the national community. Do not force us back from whence we came, to the period of lockdown, to the period of panic, to the period of everybody scrambling to Value Mart and Best Buy when there really was no need because the food security was intact. But if we continue to have anxious noise of people about parties, about jumping up for some occasion, we definitely are going to get ourselves in trouble. And for the record, I want to make it crystal clear. I see no equivalence with 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 people coming to Warner Park to praise God, and 2,000 people going on the beach or going to a hotel to party. The circumstances we know are different. And the temptation with the partying and the rum and the alcohol is at a different level. We have to have some clarity about these things. Maybe I grew up going to every Sunday school, so there's an innate belief that once God is there, there's nothing to fear. But when you're in church, you should feel a sense of safety and security because God, the healer, is there. I don't know if when you're partying, you're thinking about that. As a different atmosphere which lead to different behaviors. Some of them are going to be problematic. And as we open up, we understand that people will want to get back to normal. People have to understand, even in the churches, there is now a new normal. And until there is a reliable and safe vaccine, until the diagnostic are well developed and available, until our health systems are sufficiently strengthened, as today we are attempting to strengthen community health delivery, until the therapeutics are well researched and available and affordable, we have to live with the COVID and continue to make the changes. Truth be told, COVID-19, as invisible as it is, it doesn't have time to wait on us. And it is not going to make any adjustment for our inconveniences. It is we who are forced to make the adjustment to live with COVID-19. I want to say it is a serious message that each of us have to understand. And the sooner we do it, the better. Prime ministers have gone down, Boris Johnson for one, with respect to COVID-19. Famous athletes, and others engaged in the athletic community, they have suffered. Healthcare professionals, including doctors and nurses in St. Kitts and Nevis, have suffered. It is no respecter of persons. Persons have to respect it. COVID and the cases in Europe and elsewhere has brought back a reminder we must never be complacent and never become weary in doing good. COVID has forced us to take a look at the way we live and the way in which we do things. Critically important. And Ambassador Van Sammy has among the respective assignments a duty of care and attention to the public service, and to help us to make it more resilient, more innovative, more productive as we move forward. One of the things we have to look at, COVID-19 comes, and we used to be concerned about the size of the public sector going. COVID-19 has come, and it has told somebody, well, you all have too much staff. Stay at home. Stay at home. And look how many of them now are comfortable staying at home. Has it led to a diminution in delivery of the service? What does it say to us about value for money and utilization of scarce resources in private sector and in public sector? in churches and in entertainment places. Everyone now has to relook the way in which we organize and we do business, and most importantly, how we live. Productivity, quality rather than quantity becomes critically important. COVID-19 must have dramatized to the health sector. We have numbers. We have quality too. But do we have enough quality, enough diversity, enough of a mix in terms of the skills which this particular pandemic required of us? And the instinctive answer is no. That's why we went to Cuba, and we are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring in additional support for the island of Nevis and the island of St. Kitts to ensure if the worst were to happen, we will be able to show some degree of resilience with respect to that. COVID-19 must spark an idea in the minds of health planners as Mr. Bell. What is the safe haven in which governments must intervene in the health sector in furtherance of an agenda of health for all vis-a-vis the private sector? Certain things are better left to those best suited with their modus operandi, with their talents, with their resources to engage in. We are fortunate to have a lab that is able to do the PCR test here, molecular test, the gold standard. Is this an area for government to engage? Or we leave it to those people who have come in with interesting ideas to engage? What are the range of healthcare services we are better left to those private entities to engage upon, but setting the rules in which those services will be delivered? Certain things, when government does them, people take it for granted. Certain things, when government does them, a degree of inefficiency comes into it. Because sometimes we just assume that being with government, we're there forever. Because we're there forever, we don't pay sufficient attention to work ethics, to coming in early, to delivering a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. Because we work in government, we believe and we assume, well, we have the right to leave every day a week for some activity, funeral, wedding, it doesn't matter. But as soon as we move to TDC, we're not on a funeral except on our own time. COVID-19, with the consequences upon scarce resources, is forcing each of us involved in the task of nation building and development to determine again what is sustainable, what is good, what is proper for us to be engaging. And I want the society at large to take note of these things. COVID-19 has reminded us that although we have one of the best social security schemes anywhere in the region, that some of us have taken it for granted. The contractor who hasn't registered his employees is taking COVID-19 for granted. The contractor that doesn't pay the 1% is taking COVID-19 for granted. You hear what happened to the taxi men and all those involved in self-employed engagement. When it comes to make a determination who shall benefit in an equitable way, a lot of the taxi operators, a lot of the braiders, they determine they will not pay. And when the hardship comes, they require that the money that I paid to Social Security, The money that Beverly paid to Social Security and the money that Isaiah, Reverend Father, paid for Social Security, that they have a right to be able to participate in it. And somewhere along the line in our compassion, we say, Lord, nobody caused it. But who caused the non-payment? And we allow all of them to benefit. But that too is not sustainable. And so we were able to do it for 3 months. What it meant was that we moved from a budgeted expenditure of $15 million for 3 months to over $22 million. A significant increase in the expenditure, tallying over 50%. I want to remind employers to be considerate, to obey the labor law, to do what they need to do. And to the employees who like when you hear the employers say, I'm not taking out no Social Security, you feel good, you're getting all, you think. Until sickness comes, until you're made redundant and you hear from Social Security, there is no record for you. There is no contribution for you. And all of society approach in the fight against the pandemic is encouraging us to think more carefully, think more responsibly of these things. I want to end by saying that we remain committed as a government to ideas, to hearing from you about how we can make the St. Kitts and Nevis, which each of us loves, perhaps in our own way. Each of us wants our country to do well. And we now need new ideas that could help us to improve upon the resilience of our country. Innovation. And what is the third component of the independence theme, Madam Health Minister? Security. And the security of our country. By God's grace, we can make it to the Canaan land. We can move from the period of difficulty and pressure and uncertainty to a safer place, to a more prosperous land. It was that prosperous land way back in 1937 Marcus Garvey asked us to look at. The Garden of Eden. Speak to a nation of prosperity. Speak to each one actualizing, each one prospering by their efforts. I ask the country, at this point as we commemorate our 37th anniversary of independence, let us join hands together to build for St. Kitts and Nevis a Garden of Eden that will be pleasing to each and every one of us and make us shine as a nation under God. God bless St. Kitts and Nevis. Long live healthcare, and primary healthcare in particular. Thank you.